Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th Canadian Science Policy Conference, CSPC 2020. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue au 12e conférence sur la politique scientifique canadienne. As part of the interview series for the CSPC 2020, we are absolutely pleased to have with us a special guest, Dr. Ottoline Leyser, Chief Executive of the UK Research and Innovation, the funding organization of UK Research and Development Enterprise. Nous sommes heureux d'accueillir avec nous Dr. Ottoline Leyser, la directrice générale de la recherche et de l'innovation au Royaume-Uni, l'organisation de financement de la recherche et de développement au Royaume-Uni. Welcome to the CSPC 2020, Dr. Leyser. I believe this is your first time.
Thank you very much. Merci. I won't be doing simultaneous translation all the way through, but I can extend to merci. Et bonjour.
Thank you very much. That's good. That was wonderful. An excellent introduction. We're grateful for your presence and at the conference. So let me begin with UKORI and CSPC partnership. CSPC is very thankful for the support of the UKORI and for the second consecutive year. And we consider UKORI now as an active member of the CSPC community. What do you see as the biggest benefit and value attending and supporting Science Policy Conference, and in particular CSPC in this case?
Thank you. Yes, well, we're absolutely delighted to be able to support the Canadian Science Policy Conference. And Canada, I think, is a key international collaborative partner for the UK. In the context of science policy, I think these collaborations are particularly important. We are currently in the middle of a global pandemic, which I think highlights simultaneously the real importance of science policy, of having science in the center of policy and policy discussion. And that is in the context both of science for policy and in the context of policy for science. And so I think the pandemic has really highlighted that importance. And at the same time, it's highlighted the key value of international collaboration in the science domain and in the policy domain. So I think this is a really auspicious moment to be holding this conference right at the center of a situation where both science and policy and international collaboration are so crucial.
Thank you. And let me tell you that we are very much looking forward to have you in person here in Ottawa for the next year's conference. Hopefully the situation changes and we can have many guests, including yourself, at the conference. You have been appointed to this role in, I believe, May 2020 and started your work in June of this year, which is very recent in the midst of, the whole pandemic and challenging situation. How has your background set you up for your new position as Chief Executive for UKORI? And what is your vision for UKORI moving forward?
Thank you. Yes, I have indeed been in this role a relatively short amount of time, and it has been particularly challenging coming in the middle of all of these very demanding situations at a time when, as you say, most of our meetings are happening virtually. And so I've been meeting an awful lot of very wonderful and interesting new colleagues virtually, which is excellent. But at the same time, there's no substitute for a real face-to-face meeting. And so I agree with you. I would like very much next year to be there in person. So in terms of my background for my UKI role, I have quite a long background in science policy, working primarily for a wide range of other organizations. So I chaired the Science Policy Advisory Group of the Royal Society for many years. I have worked with the Centre for Science and Policy in Cambridge also for many years. And then I've had more kind of single issue roles in science policy, particularly interested in equality and diversity and inclusion in science and how important that is for the research base in general, and very interested in the position of science in society. So how the research and innovation system can deliver for society, but also how those, at the moment, I think research and innovation are seen very much as a sort of separate activity that delivers things into society, as I suggested. And I think it's really important that we shift that narrative to a situation where we're working with society. So everybody has the opportunity to contribute to the research and innovation system. And I don't think we will genuinely have a system where everybody can benefit unless everybody is also contributing. So through those elements in science policy, I have a reasonable track record. And those are the kinds of things that drove me to apply for the role, my real passion for those agendas. But then more broadly, I come very much from a fairly straightforward academic research background. I was, until 3 months ago, director of a research institute in the University of Cambridge that was focused on plant developmental biology, which is my speciality. I've said to people, though, in a number of contexts, I think that not only has that obviously given me a huge amount of experience in research, which is very relevant for my current role, plant developmental biology is a very interesting phenomenon because plants, as you will know, grow and develop in a way that's sensitive to their environment. They have this extraordinary range of choices they make every day about how they should grow and how they should develop, taking into account information, quite rich and diverse sources of information from the environment, and of course, information from inside the plant. And they do that with no central processing, so there's no brain. So this is a distributed, self-organizing decision-making process, and it's very much a system process. And those kinds of ways of thinking about systems I have found extraordinarily useful in actually the science policy context. How you shepherd and steward a complex system with lots of feedbacks into a particular state with no unitary point of central control is exactly the kind of problem that we're trying to solve in all kinds of contexts, for climate change, for some of these complex research culture, equality and diversity issues. It's a way of thinking that I think maps quite well across the diversity of the problems we're having to tackle.
Very interesting analysis and analogy that you provided. That was excellent. And you mentioned about something that is very important everywhere, especially in Canada, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And these issues are at the forefront of our societies today. And you have been working on this issue. What reflections do you have on these issues, and how do you see the future for them?
Absolutely. So these are indeed issues which I think are of central importance. One can map them onto a variety of scales. So within the research and innovation system as we currently define it, we know that there's significant underrepresentation of quite a large number of really important groups of people. And we also know that our ability to solve problems, that creativity, that innovation, emerge from diversity. If you bring together different sorts of people with different ideas and different ways of thinking and put them together in an environment where that difference is valued, where people listen to each other and understand each other and work together collaboratively, that's where you get the really high quality problem solving, the really exciting and innovative solutions out of the system. Teams are better than individuals, and those teams only work where people are respecting each other's difference and alternative ways of thinking about things. So creating that kind of research culture, I think, is absolutely crucial for a successful research endeavor. And there are many things we need to do. It's a systems problem to try to work towards that. And I think an organization like UK Research and Innovation that reaches right across the disciplines and right across the domains of activity and research, universities, research institutes, the private sector and the public sector, we have both a huge access to a huge diversity of understanding of the system and expertise in the system, but also a huge reach in the context of the incentives we put in place, the groups that we can bring together to convene and catalyze change, and of course the investment we can make. So I'm very keen to use all of those levers to try to move towards a system that values difference much more, that works to create a portfolio of activity that captures that difference, both in the ways that we fund research, so different sorts of funding for different sorts of projects and different sorts of people at different points in their careers, and in the approaches that we take. And we need difference. And I think we have the opportunity to value and support that in a much stronger way than we currently do. And then if I can zoom out to the larger scale, as I alluded to previously, I think we need to embed the research and innovation system and that ethos of problem solving much more broadly across society. And we need to stop thinking about the research and innovation system as a bunch of genius researchers and think about it as the system that it really is. So yes, there are some genius researchers, which is terrific. In the Nobel Prize week, one can't ignore the genius researchers. They're wonderful and they bring wonderful things to the system, but they couldn't work and they couldn't do what they do without many, many other people working in their teams on the research projects, working to support their teams in the universities and institutes where they work, the administrators, the project managers, the communications specialists, and of course the science policy specialists who are helping to support the interface between the research system and the policy system. So really valuing that much wider range of people, I think, opens up the lab doors. It opens the entry into the research and innovation system, brings in a much wider range of people, and then immediately creates a much more inclusive environment where far more people think or know that they are part of the system and they have an ability to influence and contribute to the system. So I think both at a small scale, how we view the research and innovation community system, and at this much broader scale, how we open the doors more widely, are to me key priorities for how UK research and innovation should work.
That was a perfect explanation, the importance of the EDI, and I'm sure UKORI will see fundamental advancement on these issues under your leadership as you laid out your vision for this. That's great. I just want to go back to the COVID and pandemic. Addressing the pandemic has truly been, a global challenge, what has been the UKORI's role in addressing COVID-19 and moving into future? The problem, the challenge still exists, and how do you see that role?
Yes, so I think so. UKORI is actually a relatively new organisation. We're 2.5 years old, and we have brought together under one umbrella the 7 disciplinary research councils that existed before, along with the UK's innovation agency, Innovate UK, and Research England, which supports the university sector in England, working closely with equivalent bodies in the devolved nations in the UK. So all of these organisations have come together, and I think actually the way we have therefore been able to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic has been very different from how we would have been able to respond before, and has been in many ways extremely successful. We were able to mobilise resource very rapidly into a central call for research and innovation activities to address the specific goals or the specific needs of the pandemic as they emerge, linked very closely to the advisory system that was helping our government to steer through the pandemic. So that SAGE system was generating questions that we were able to ask and source solutions to directly from the community through this rapid response call. So that I think has been very positive, and it has resulted in us being able to move forward quite quickly, for example, with vaccine development, with the demonstration that dexamethasone is indeed an effective treatment for those in suffering with these overreactive immune system responses to the virus. So lots of positives from that point of view. And I think that has given us some confidence in some ways that we are able to work in different ways to the ways that we normally work. And we're very interested in how we can maintain those alternative ways of working beyond the pandemic, actually partly to drive some of this diversity into the system, because we need to think about different ways of working to engage with different communities of people and bring their skills and talents into the system. And then, of course, I think the way we've been able to respond internationally has also been very important. We've had some really valuable collaborations, including in Canada, on issues such as the viral genome sequencing that have really provided very rapid information into the system about how the virus is evolving and as it spreads. So lots of challenges, which we've responded to, and have learned a lot from that, what we can do well, what we can do less well, where there have been problems, and in how we've responded and how we can address those. So it's been a massive learning experience, and I hope very much that we, with our international partners, will be able to take forward all the positive things we've learned into the future world as we try to build back better.
Perfect. You mentioned the international collaboration and the partnership with Canada. I want to just ask a question about that, and perhaps in a perfect context, that just recently the Nobel Prize winner, one of the Nobel Prize winner in medicine, Michael Houghton, a British scientist who has worked in the University of Alberta. We are so proud of that. So this shows how close the two countries are in terms of the working together in science, research, and innovation. I want to ask you what are your thoughts on UKORI's partnership with Canada in general on science and innovation?
So we have very much valued our growing collaborations with Canada. It's been a very strong priority for us over recent times to build that collaboration in areas of mutual interest. I think there are lots of opportunities for developing that further, and it's difficult. There are so many different ways of working together, and I think the combination of these kind of bottom-up approaches in the lead agency type approach, where researchers in our two nations that are enthusiastic about working together have the opportunity to get joint funding, that's very important. But then also some more targeted interventions in the kind of top-down way, where nationally we have key priorities that we can where we can bring together and pool our expertise and get so much more out of what will always be limited budgets by collaborating. I think that combining those two approaches will be really valuable as we move forward.
That's perfect. And last question, aside from COVID and other challenges that you are struggling or working to address, your vision for UKORI, I just want to know what are your priorities for UKORI and what you hope to accomplish during your time as chief executive?
Gosh, yeah. So maybe beyond some of the things I've mentioned already, which are to do with our roles in stewarding a really high quality research culture that captures the benefits of diversity. I think the fact that we are a single agency that cover the full range of disciplines and the full range of sectors where research and innovation happen gives us an extraordinary opportunity to capture the benefits of that rich expertise in the subject domains and sector domains to capture synergies. And some of those are in those broad questions of research culture, but some of them are very specifically focused on the key challenges that are facing the world. So it's great to see in this conference some of those very challenges listed, and they're really a major focus for all of us. Obviously, environmental sustainability is very high on the agenda, and that is a huge systems-wide problem that will require expertise from across the disciplines to address. It will involve, social science in the context of behavior change and the economics of sustainability, but also physical science in the kind of technological solutions that can contribute to electrification of our transport systems, for example, but then also the biological science that we need to decarbonize agriculture. So we need all of that domain expertise, and we need the entire research community to be engaging in a coordinated way. So one of the things I really hope can come out of UKORI as a coherent organization is the ability to capture the benefit of all of that expertise to deliver on some of these really major international challenges. And that will include a really important collaboration with our partner countries across the world. And that's something else which I hope becomes easier to do as one integrated organization rather than needing to work with multiple different organizations.
It's great. Merci énormément. Thank you very much, Dr. Leyser. That was excellent exchange of ideas. And once again, we very much look forward to have you here in Canada as part of hopefully the next year's conference. And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you too. Pleasure to contribute.